Hi guys, coming to you this evening from my good friend Bill and Michelle Bevan's place. I'm in their hunting lodge, as you can see, at the K Corner. So due east from here, about 5 minutes, is the Rockin' K 2.0. Bill and Michelle moved out here from Irving, I think good 6 years ago or so. They built this cabin 10 years ago or so. And they loved it so much coming out here, they built a house right beside the hunting lodge and sold everything they had in the city and moved out here. And they've been after us for a couple of years to come up here, and God made it was definitely one of these days I'll tell y'all about how it was an act of God that we have the Rockin' K 2.0. But anyway, they invited us over for dinner tonight, so I slipped out of their house and come into the hunting lodge to talk to you guys tonight about Roger. We were talking about how he's a free spirit and played golf, and that's why I wore my Titleist hat tonight. Roger started playing golf, and those were some fun times, because regardless of how good or bad he was in golf, he always enjoyed it. And he'd go back to Arkansas and play in the Little River Country Club, which is a 9-hole golf course, which is gorgeous. They redid it. If you guys ever get a chance to go to Southwest Arkansas and go to Little River Country Club, go play at the 9 holes. It's fabulous. Anyway, we were in Floresville. I was telling you about that, and he kind of everywhere we would land or light, Roger would come around for a visit, 2 or 3 times a year, and as long as we had work for him and stuff like that. But like I said, the free spirit of him, he just wanted to go here and go there and do things. He had a little bit of a jaunt out in New Mexico. He had a good friend of his that he knew out there from Lawton, the Lawton days, Sherry Dobbins, and they were very, very close, good friends. And she moved out there. She retired from Southwest Airlines as a flight attendant back when they called them stewardesses. But she was one of the originals when they started. So she knew, can't think of his name right now, but the guy that owned Southwest had died last year, I think it was. Scott knows him well. Anyway, she was friends with him and like that, and she did stock in that thing, so she did really great from that, and they invited Roger. She got married, and they invited Roger out to New Mexico, so he got out there and got a job and was doing really well. And man, he loves the mountains and those mountains in Mexico and things like that. It was kind of a little getaway for him, and was kind of after Mom had passed away, and by this time my little brother, and a lot of this stuff is, it's amazing how much of a wonderful family you can have and how beautiful things are, and just like what's going on now, in a blink of an eye things change. We experienced quite a bit of tragedy. My dad, a tragic death, and my older brother, a tragic death, and then my mom died of cancer, that was pretty dramatic. She lived the last 2 years with me and my wife, and the two, Riley and Bevan, they got to know her. But anyway, Roger kind of said, you know what, I'm done here. I'm going out to New Mexico, and stayed out there for a while, and really enjoyed it. He would send us videos. I remember one video, and it was back in the day when you would send a video and it would come in, and it would come in chunks. So it would download, you see his head, he's got a cowboy hat on, and then you see his hands up, he's got a cigarette in one hand, or a joint, whatever, and then he's got a drink in another hand, and then another one comes in, he's got bare shoulders, and then it just keeps on coming in. Well, he's actually in a hot tub, a natural springs hot tub in the Sangria Mountains. I think that's how you pronounce it. I don't remember, old people. But anyway, he was in the mountain range around New Mexico, around what was it, Albuquerque, and so he would send us stuff were the pictures of the balloons, and we always wanted to go out there. We never did, but there was this deal where he's sending us thing, and then he comes on down, and there's steam coming up, and then it keeps on developing, and it is a natural springs hot up in the mountains, and it's about the size of a 6-man hot tub, and he's got his cowboy hat on, he's kicked back, and my wife goes, "Oh my God, he's naked." So he would just put stuff out there. He didn't care. Like I said, he was a free spirit, and that's what he started doing. And then he got kind of got that kind of war on him. He would call me and things, and we'd talk. And he said, "Man, New Mexico was pretty lawless, and he had to run in with some people out there. And plus, he wasn't home. He didn't know people. There wasn't family there. Sherry was awesome to him and things like that. But he had to come back. So he came back and kind of meandered around whether to go back to Arkansas or whatever, that kind of thing. And that I think that was kind of he enjoyed those times. He even wrote a song and it's somewhere recorded, I don't know, about the mountains and things like that. He always wrote songs about it. But somewhere out there, there's he's got a poetry book where he wrote poetry back when he was in his 20s and 30s. And I think he started way before then. And it's probably about that thick, and it's just a poetry book where he'd write poetry. And he had 2 friends that he went to high school with that followed him around or kept up with him. I think following around, kept up with him and stayed in touch. And they came to me one time and said, "Look, we're trying to get Roger to publish it, because if we can get him to publish that poetry book, he'll never have to want for anything, the royalties off of it for songs and just, I mean, they were in a position where they were both literal. I think they both had degrees, and they were saying they've read them, they know all about them, and they tried to talk him into it for years, and he just said he wasn't interested. Those are mine. It's like his memoirs. I don't know where that is. I haven't found it. If anybody out there can enlighten any of us on where that is, and if we can find that, it'd be great. It could possibly be in New Mexico. We're going to take a trip out there. Ivory and I and Scott Kirk's going to take a trip out there later on whenever we can. And all of his other stuff is still out there in New Mexico. There's 8mm films of when we were in the Bahamas. He's got that out there. Pictures of the shark hole I was telling y'all about a long time ago, about being at the shark hole and stuff like that. All that stuff's out there with his tapestries, that kind of thing. And, but, he kind of, like I said, he kind of left that behind and came back, and he would basically, almost every time I got a new job, he'd show up and go, "What do you got?" I said, "Hey, I get, you can do this, and you can help us do that. And we're planting a garden, you can do this and that." And so that's kind of how he lived. And like I was telling you, I think he kind of missed, giving up a lot of that stuff he gave up to be a free spirit. So he would go experience people's family life. I know it got bad a couple of times when I had little kids that I told him he had to leave. I mean, literally just said, you need to leave, because it got to that point. And I know there's several of you know what I'm talking about. I know we don't want to try to dwell on any of that stuff, but like I said, we're all, and we all fall short of the grace of God. So none of us are perfect, and we never will be. And so I'm definitely one not to throw any stones. I'm just trying to tell it like it is. That's all. I loved him, and Larry Longino have been conversing back and forth, and he's been telling me some stories. I need to get a couple of those memorized and tell you some stories of him growing up with Roger. It's pretty cool. He could do his own, if he desired, he could do his own deal, because he's got some amazing stories of Roger growing up, at 10 to 14 in that era, and then on. but we were talking about it too, and he said I mentioned a fight, in the fight Roger and I got in. He was like my dad. He'd rather fight than eat if he could. He just kind of loved it. But you would get in a fight with him, and Larry said he got in one fight with him, didn't last long, but in the whole time he knew him. But he said he reminded me of one thing that, if you were going to get in a fight and it was a big one, like a whole bunch of people around and trying to gang up on you, you want Roger on your side, because if there's one thing, he wouldn't back down. And if it was to save your life, he would take a life. And that was one thing even Jesus said, that there's no greater thing that man can do but lay down his life for another man. There's no doubt in my mind that Roger would lay his life down for anybody that he knew, especially people he really loved. If you were going to be harmed, he'd put himself in harm's way in a heartbeat. That shows his heart. There's no doubt. But it's like all of us. Our spirit battles our soul, and so Roger was big on Indian artifacts, and my family were probably had enough. He even got the paperwork done and just never did do it. And we had a great uncle that was supposed to go do it and gamble the money away, but never got in with the government money and all that kind of stuff. But we have enough Cherokee blood in us to probably get government money, but nobody had a desire for to do that. I tried to get Roger to do it, and he came real close to doing it just because of his financial situation the last few years of his life. But that said, there's an old Indian fable that the young warrior, before he became a warrior, came to the chief and said, hey, you guys are talking about the spirit world and this, that, and the other. And I've noticed there are some Indians that are bad and some that are good, and he goes, and he basically just said, what's the deal? And so the chief sat him down and said, our spirits and Indians always used animals. So he said, there's an evil dog and there is a good dog. And he said, those two dogs are fighting each other constantly from the time you're born until you die to go to the big God in the sky. That's kind of how they would put it. And the little Indian brave would said, hey, well, which one wins? And the chief looked at him and said, the one you feed the most. And that is really true in life, and even in the Christian world. If you feed your ego or your sinful self, that wins. If you feed your good, your heart, the compassion for others, and the good spirit, that's the one that wins. So it's the one that you choose to feed the most, and that's the whole deal about life. It's all about choices. And that's why I say this country, United States of America, from its conception, and we're losing a lot of our civil rights, and I really feel, I've seen the vision God showed me. We're going to get them back, even for a brief moment. How long that is, I don't know, but it is going to go back to the country that was founded to begin with our forefathers as a republic and not a democracy, because that's not what we are. We are a republic, which is just with a democratic system type of democracy, elections and stuff. But if you go study our country, and if you go study our history, and you go study our background and our forefathers and what it was set up on in the Constitution, we are a republic. And so it is supposed to be for the people, by the people, for the people, and government work for us. And I think we're going to get back there. I know we are, but it won't be for long. It'll just be for a brief moment. And, and in God's eyes, a brief moment could be 100 years. I don't know. Nobody knows. So that's why, Scripture says, don't be boastful about tomorrow, because you don't know what's coming. Live for today. So, like I said, this country's a great country, and it allows you to do stuff like Roger wanted to be a free spirit. You know, if you were in some other country, you couldn't do that. If you're a free spirit, next thing you know, you're dubbed as a enemy of the state, or you're dubbed as a radical, and they throw you in prison. You got to really realize that that's what a wonderful, great nation we still live in. Even though you've seen little glimpses here and there during this pandemic of what, if it were allowed to happen, what could happen. They could arrest you for leaving your home. That's against the Constitution, folks. And that's when you got to stand up. Like I put out on Facebook the other day, you got to stand for something or you'll fall for anything. And so we all need to be united. And I think Roger would agree with that. If you could be united in the Constitution, and it doesn't have to be united in Christianity or anything like that, even though that would be beautiful too. If you be united in what the Constitution stands for and what it says, if we could all just stand up and be united and make sure that we all get out and put people in office that are definitely for the Constitution. If they're not, we get rid of them. That's where that's at, and that's where we need to get to. But like I said, this is all about the free spirit. You couldn't do that in any other country. You just couldn't. Like I said, you got to have papers to get from, if this were a communist country or Europe, just to go from Arkansas to Texas, you'd have a border check and they check your papers. If you don't have the proper papers, they either arrest you or turn you away. So you got to realize that and what we actually do have still in place here, and we can't lose that. This is a crucial time that we're going through right now, and we don't want to lose that. So, whatever, like I said, boots on the ground, look around, see what's going on around you. I'm not saying tattletale anybody. That's communism. That's Nazi stuff when they were, getting paid to rat on people. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about helping your brother out, helping your sister out, helping people out, your neighbors, and showing love and compassion. That's what I'm talking about. And so to be a free spirit like Roger was, that this needs to continue to be the nation that it was intended to be. And I truly think Roger truly loved this country too. He really did. He was very patriotic. I think that he was very very adamant and very vocal about what we see going on with the secret societies and the secret governments, the shadow governments and stuff like that. He was aware of that in the 60s, and he was telling people, and no one would believe him. And I'm telling people that now, and no one believes me either. But it's true. And I'm telling you folks, and I know I'm just going to tell you right now because I've got your attention. I'm going to talk about Roger a little bit more, not much. We're going to end it here tonight. But don't listen to the propaganda that's on the media. ABC, NBC, CBS, NBC, CNBC, Fox News, all of those, they're putting out stuff what they want to put out. They can make things look like it's real and it's not. I don't listen to any of it anymore. I don't watch it. I do get on the internet and I pick and choose and I confirm it with some prophets and with scripture of what's true and what's not true. That's how I do things now. And there's a lot of good stuff out there that are truthful, real people telling the real news now on the internet. And once this country wakes up to that and everybody turns off the media and they do that, don't be surprised if they don't cut the internet off. That's how corrupt it is. So we're going to go through a little rocky times here, but I think we're going to come out of it as a country just as stronger than ever and more united than we've ever been once the corruption's been exposed and you really know who is corrupt and who's not. Because right now it's kind of confusing. There's a battle of information going on. There's a battle of wars going on. And be honest with you, I'm kind of glad in a way that Roger's not here to see that. Because and then when the end times, when the end results happen, I'm really going to wish he could see it. But I got a feeling somehow he'll know. It's not a problem. He knew anyway. like I said, that's why he chose the free spirit life, and I've got a lot of different, things about that go along with scripture. Like I said, if you guys got any questions about that, just email me at it's his ministry at gmail.com, and I can enlighten you on some of the stuff. I would be glad to. But I love all you guys. Like I said, this is therapy for me, and reminiscing with my brother and telling stories about him, especially the golf stories. I got a couple more stories in line for tomorrow. I'll let you guys know about. They're kind of funny stories, and we're just like right now, we're in like I'm growing old, Roger. And it's a fun ride. It really is. When you look at the fun parts of it, just like life, just like any novel, there's ups and downs in this roller coaster, but I'm trying to touch on the highlights of the stuff, so that it puts a smile on my face. It puts a smile on your face. I love all of you. I really do. Because I know the people who are listening to this and the people who subscribe to it know me and know my brother and know my family. And they know we're sincere when we say that. I had a good friend of mine's mother that never really liked me for whatever reason. And I loved her son, very, very much. His name was TJ Lackey. And, they asked me to do his eulogy. And TJ was one of those guys that when he died, looks like my brother, my mom, my dad, and my two brothers, that when I knew that I couldn't talk to them anymore. I won't say we lost them, because I haven't. We reunited again. But at that moment, for my selfish reasons, I cried for an hour. And when I got the news that TJ had passed, I didn't really realize how much I loved him, but I went out and cried for an hour. That's how much I loved him. And I expressed that in the eulogy. His wife and his mother, they asked me to do it as well as his wife did. And up to that point, his mom and I still had kind of an estranged relationship, even though I went to the hospital for 2 months every Sunday and visit with TJ and pray for him, because he died of cancer. And anyway, it took her 2 months, but she sent me a text message. And this is why you never know. Just plant the seeds and live a lifestyle that you never know. And she sent me this long text message saying how much she just appreciated what I said, and that I loved him, and it showed. And I thought she would never say that. So never give up on anybody. And like Christ says, when they ask him how many times we're supposed to forgive somebody, it's 70 times 7. And I'm, I kind of started thinking about that, and the Holy Spirit goes, if you have to even do the calculations, you're already going the wrong direction. So that said, I love you guys. Peace be with you. And we will see you tomorrow.